Think about the most powerful weapon on Earth. Is it a nuclear missile? A stealth fighter jet? Or maybe a tech superpower's algorithm? What if I told you the most powerful weapon in human history is sitting right inside your wallet? A small green piece of paper. The US dollar. Right now, the US dollar makes up nearly 60% of all foreign exchange reserves globally. Almost 90% of all international currency trading involves the dollar. If a country in South America wants to buy oil from the Middle East, they don't use their own currencies. They use our dollar. But how did a single currency achieve this level of absolute global dominance? And more importantly, what does this exorbitant privilege mean for your bank account, the US economy, and the future of global wealth? By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how the dollar rules the world, and the hidden threats that could change everything. Let's dive in. To understand the power of the dollar, we have to travel back to 1944. World War II was nearing its end. Europe was completely devastated, their economies lay in ruins, and their gold reserves were depleted. Meanwhile, the United States was sitting pretty. Not only was its infrastructure untouched, but it also held roughly 70% of the entire world's gold reserves. So, leaders from 44 nations gathered in a small town in New Hampshire called Bretton Woods. They needed a new global financial system. The solution? Every major country pegged their currency to the US dollar, and the US dollar was pegged directly to gold at $35 per ounce. For a while this worked perfectly. The dollar became as good as gold. But by the late 1960s, the US was spending heavily on the Vietnam War and domestic programs. Countries like France started getting nervous. They began turning in their paper dollars and demanding physical gold back. President Richard Nixon realized the US didn't have enough gold to cover all those dollars. So, on August 15, 1971, he did something shocking. He completely unpegged the dollar from gold. Suddenly, the dollar wasn't backed by anything physical. It became a fiat currency, backed only by trust. Everyone thought the dollar would collapse. Instead, it got even more powerful. What? Because of a genius geopolitical move called the Petrodollar. In 1974, the US made a historic deal with Saudi Arabia, the world's largest oil producer. The deal was simple. The US would provide military protection and weapons to Saudi Arabia. In exchange, Saudi Arabia agreed to price and sell all of their oil exclusively in US dollars. Soon, the rest of OPEC followed suit. Think about how massive this was. Every single country on Earth needs oil to run its factories, cars, and militaries. And to buy that oil, they absolutely must hold US dollars. This created an artificial, never-ending global demand for the greenback. Countries had to export real goods, cars, electronics, clothes, to the US just to earn the paper dollars required to buy energy. This is what economists call exorbitant privilege. The US can literally print money to buy real goods from around the world, while everyone else has to work to earn it. Because the dollar is the foundation of global trade, the United States controls the plumbing of the world's financial system. Meet SWIFT, the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. It's the network banks use to send money across borders. Even though SWIFT is technically neutral because it relies so heavily on the dollar, the US government holds massive leverage over it. If a country steps out of line, the US doesn't just send the military. They can freeze that country out of the dollar system. They can freeze their central bank reserves. We saw this clearly in 2022 when the US and its allies froze over $300 billion of Russia's foreign reserves overnight. Imagine a superpower turning off your access to your own money with the click of a button. That is the ultimate geopolitical leverage. The dollar isn't just currency, it's a tool for global diplomacy and enforcement. So, how does this affect you, the average viewer sitting at home? First, it keeps your consumer goods cheap. Because the world wants dollars, our currency stays strong. A strong dollar means importing electronics from Japan, clothes from Bangladesh, and cars from Germany is incredibly cheap for American consumers. Second, it allows the US government to borrow trillions of dollars at very low interest rates. Investors worldwide see US Treasury bonds as the safest asset on Earth. But it's a double-edged sword. Because the dollar is so strong, American-made goods become expensive for foreigners to buy. This hurts US manufacturing and kills local jobs. Furthermore, it gives our government the ability to print money on an unprecedented scale, like we saw during the pandemic. When the Federal Reserve prints trillions, it triggers inflation. But here is the crazy part. Because the dollar is global, the US actually exports a portion of its inflation to the rest of the world. When the Fed raises interest rates to fight inflation at home, it crushes developing nations whose debts are priced in dollars. No empire lasts forever, and today the dollar's supremacy is facing its biggest test in decades. Countries like China, Russia, Brazil, and India, known as the BRICS nations, are actively trying to de-dollarize. They are setting up alternative payment systems and trading in their local currencies. Meanwhile, the rise of digital assets and central bank digital currencies threatens to bypass traditional banking systems altogether. Will the dollar lose its crown anytime soon? Unlikely. There is currently no other currency with the trust, liquidity, and military backing that the US dollar has. But the cracks are starting to show. The power of the dollar has shaped the modern world, funded the American dream, and rewritten the rules of global geopolitics. Understanding it is the first step to mastering your own financial future. What do you think? Will the dollar remain the global king, or will a new competitor take over? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into the world of finance, and we'll see you in the next video.